Biden and Kamala are terrified that you'll click this link to save America. People are not this dumb, okay? They're like, whoa, we have to raise as much money as we can. Then how about you treat your voters with respect?
How about you treat your voters with respect? That was Charlie Kirk complaining about not Democrats and their fundraising effort, but about Trump and his fundraising emails. A little bit of a twist here, right? Now, here's why Charlie is so worked up about this. It turns out that Democrats have been really making a killing through their fundraising efforts, which I think is a little bit of a problem. We'll get into that later. Republicans not doing so well in comparison. Let's watch.
New York Times writes, online fundraising has slowed across much of the Republican Party in recent months. An unusual pullback of small dollar donors that has set off, quote, a mad rush among Republican political operatives to understand why. Well, first of all, maybe Republican politicians shouldn't have been voting for gun control legislation, sending $56 billion to Ukraine. Maybe Republican politicians shouldn't be voting for gay marriage, and maybe your online donations would go a lot better.
Well, let's go a little deeper, certainly deeper than Charlie Kirk did in this segment, to kind of understand what's happening with these fundraising efforts. Now, the total amount donated online to Republicans, by the way, fell more than 12% across all federal Republican campaigns and committees in the second quarter compared with the first quarter. And that's according to analysis of federal records by WinRed, which, as the name obviously indicates, is the main online Republican donation processing portal. Now, more alarming for Republicans is that Democratic contributions have actually surged at the same time. So total federal donations on Act Blue, which is the Democratic counterpart, jumped by more than 21%. Now, without even having to do much research, I'm sure you can speculate accurately, in my opinion, that this has more to do with the fact that Republicans succeeding in stripping rights away from people, including reproductive rights, for instance, has played a role in, in encouraging Democratic voters to donate more to Democratic candidates or Democratic politicians, Democratic Party. I would say your money is probably best spent somewhere else, unless there is a progressive politician who actually is fighting to protect your rights. Or you can donate that money to organizations that are providing abortion access to women, for instance, after the Supreme Court overturned Roe. But we'll get into that discussion a little later. Let's take a quick look at this graph, which shows you the differences in Democrat versus Republican fundraising. And it goes back to January of 2021, and you see this huge, this steep increase in fundraising for Democrats beginning in the summer of 2022. Gee, I wonder what happened. Could it be that the Supreme Court overturned Roe? That probably has a lot to do with it. Now, one of the theories is that donors are afraid of losing their rights to radical Christian fundamentalists, and they should be worried about that. Some Republicans have polled their donors to ask about why they were not giving, and according to people familiar with the results, inflation was the top answer. Still, inflation's role is being hotly debated in digital circles because it has not affected Democratic donations, which jumped particularly in the aftermath of SCOTUS's overturning of Roe v. Wade. Now, there is an interesting Trump outlier here. So while Charlie Kirk is critical of Trump's fundraising efforts, he's actually doing pretty well. And I'll get into those numbers in just a moment. But before I do, here's what Charlie Kirk had to say about it.
Do you get some of these emails from Donald Trump or from the NRSC? I need $20 right now. By the way, it's not from Trump, it's from all the consultants around him. And I love Trump, I defend Trump. And I just think the people around him that are sending these emails are doing such a disservice to Donald Trump. I mean, it is a joke, it is a mockery. I talk to grassroots people all the time. They say, Charlie, why do I get all these emails? I mean, I could show you my text messages here. It is an absolute insult to our intelligence. This is just over a couple days. This is just text messages. Trump rally alert. Have you RSVP'd for Trump's rally in Wisconsin? No, I live in Wisconsin, Arizona, actually. How about this one? Don Jr., my father just called and asked about you, friend. He's activated your 7 times impact for 5 minutes. By the way, I know Don, and I know that this stuff is not even being run by them.
Now, Charlie Kirk claims that Republican voters are not dumb. They're gonna see those Trump fundraising emails and get turned off by them. But that actually has not happened. So you can evaluate their intelligence based on this information. Trump continues to be the party's dominant fundraiser, and yet virtually none of the tens of millions of dollars he has raised has gone toward defeating Democrats. Instead, the money has funded his political team and retribution agenda against Republicans who have crossed him. As one Republican said in a survey, Republicans are struggling to grow online fundraising revenue because the big dogs are eating all of the food in the bowl. And I'm assuming the big dog he's referring to here is Donald Trump, who's not sharing the goods with other Republican candidates. And so, Dr. Ritchie, what do you make of all of this? Do you think that this disparity in fundraising between the two parties has more to do with Republicans essentially pushing for policies and succeeding in doing things that are actually wildly unpopular with the electorate?
Absolutely, that's a big part of it. So Republican policies animate left-leaning contributions politically. That's what happens. Let's talk about Charlie Kirk's statement. I think the most ironic thing he said was, and I quote, "absolute insult to our intelligence." Remember, Charlie Kirk is the man who wants people to believe that the election was stolen, even though all judges have said it was not. Secretary of State, chief elections officers, et cetera, Republicans down the list in actual executive authority have said no, the election was not stolen from this state. Judges appointed by Donald Trump himself have said no, the election was not stolen in the United States of America. People appointed in the Justice Department by Trump said no, the election was not stolen. Trump's own children saying no, the election was not stolen. He, Charlie Kirk, says it's an insult to the intelligence of Trump supporters to get a fundraising email saying we need money to win. That's an insult, but it is not an insult to preach propaganda that is contrary to every fact known to man. You have indoctrinated, dear Charlie Kirk, your own followers to believe in a lie. And if they will believe that lie, sir, it is not abnormal for them to believe the next one, that in order to win, they need more money. That somehow Donald Trump Jr. is saying, give us money right now. You, sir, are part of the reason why this group is so damn gullible. I'm not saying they're all dumb, some of them are, but they're all indoctrinated for sure. And that indoctrination comes by way of a systemic process that you, Charlie Kirk, are a part of.
Well, I mean, not only that, look, one thing that stands out to me about Charlie Kirk in recent weeks is how he is on this warpath to convince the American people that in America and in our system of government, there is no separation of church and state. That the founders of this country and the Constitution never intended for a separation of church and state, which is a lie, to be sure. But if he's genuinely concerned about why people are dissuaded from donating to Republicans, or more importantly, are persuaded to donate to Democrats instead, he should consider that what he is spouting scares a lot of Americans, including some of our brothers and sisters on the right.
That's right.
Because while the pro-Trump Republicans tend to get much of the airtime, there are plenty of Republicans out there who understand there's a separation of church and state, who do not want this country to devolve into Christian nationalism. I'm sure there are plenty people of faith on the right who do not identify with Christianity and would like to practice their own faith without fear that a right-wing fascist government would prevent them from doing so. So if they want to continue pushing these talking points about the need for an authoritarian Christian nationalist regime to rain terror on all of us for not believing what they believe, have at it. But that certainly fuels voters on the right to donate more to Democrats. And I don't know if it's really helping them out with Republican donors at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you have to remember, as flawed as the founding fathers were, they were escaping people like Charlie Kirk and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were trying to leave this ideology of a theocratic dynamic in government. And let's be very clear about this whole biblical adherence to governmental rule. They can't live up to this stuff. If they were to say, okay, let's adopt the 10 Commandments and make it law. Thou shalt not lie. All of them will be in hell or jail right now. So they can't live up to what they're proclaiming themselves. This is just a power grab. They're utilizing religiosity, if I can use that word, in order to obtain, maintain, retain power. That's all this is about. This is not about a spiritual movement or movement for righteousness. This is all about another dynamic to get them to grab power, and to grab power in a way where you do not question that power, because religion has a way of indoctrinating individuals so they don't question what is true in front of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I couldn't have said it better myself. Dr. Ritchie, always a pleasure to have you on the show. You're a very busy man, so I'm grateful that you're generous with your time and you're able to host with me today. Everyone, go check out Indisputable if you haven't already. I guarantee you will not regret it. And also check out his debate with Charlie Kirk. Final thing I'll say, Dr. Ritchie, what I really appreciated about the debate that you did with Charlie Kirk was your patience, your grace. Obviously, you came with the facts. I mean, that goes without saying. But there is a way to engage with these individuals, even the most unsavory among them, and just calmly, logically dismantle their arguments in their own territory. And that is exactly what you did. It was fantastic. Everyone check that out.
I thank you for saying that.